Folks, welcome to the God is the Issue podcast, where I show how God is the issue in every issue. This is Brad Bright. I want to welcome you today. I have a special guest for you today. His name is Frank Gucciardo. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it
Frank
right.
Gucciardo, good Swedish name. Good Swedish name. Originally from New York, now lives down here in Columbia, South Carolina. Kathy and I are on the road, traveling around. We have our travel trailer, so we set up the studio in the back of the trailer, and that's why it looks a little different than it normally does. So Frank and I, in these tight quarters, we're going to have a conversation about what's going on in North Carolina, how he is helping, how he is making a difference. With all the political jargon and all the sniping and all the back and forth between the politicians and people dropping the ball, FEMA dropped the ball, all this sort of stuff. I want to talk about what's going right. And Frank is right in the middle of that, of people pulling together to make a difference. So, Frank, as we get going, just tell me quickly, how long have you lived in Columbia?
So we've been living in Columbia now, better part of 2 years. We have a property in New York and a property down here. I've been given a real royal welcome by my southern brothers.
But let's jump in here.
Sure.
You're involved. You've gotten involved with after Hurricane Helene.
Yep.
Of helping to make a difference. What was the trigger point? What motivated you to do that? What was that first initial motivation for your decision?
Yeah. So we lived through Hurricane Sandy, and we were in the epicenter of it. We were down. Sandy post hit on a Monday. I was down in some of the hardest hit areas of Breezy Point, New York, in let's say Thursday, and I saw utter destruction and devastation. And then for weeks after, we were kind of organizing men in a parade of cars to come down and clean out. We were looking for the widows down there. All we saw at the time on day 4 were the Moonies. We saw a bunch of Mormons, and I saw a food truck plastered, and this is what really set me off, was Satan's Burgers with a goat head and pentagram giving out free burgers. And I said, oh no, we're not going to stand for this. And so the local church was there, but we went back week after week with 35, 40 guys, and we were looking for the widows and doing the initial hands-on dirty work, bringing in sleeping bags because it snowed right after Sandy, and people were cold, and we were bringing wood down to friends so they could turn on their fireplaces and stay a little warm. And then afterwards, our business, we're architects, and we were a prime vendor with Governor's Office of Storm Recovery, and we were responsible for about 70% of the buildings, the residential homes on the South Shore of Long Island, elevating them above the base flood elevation. And so we almost got tapped to go down to Hurricane Harvey. And then again, after Florence and Matthews, we were one vote away from coming in and helping with that recovery effort. So, my wife and I were down at Hurricane Katrina with our church, maybe 6 months after. So we've been around disaster recovery. And when I saw this is kind of like a part of us in a way. But we're just average. We're an average family. We're not a big firm. We're not part of any organization. But when I saw this, there was lessons learned after Sandy, and the response that I was getting from friends in the Dakotas and in Florida and Pennsylvania and New York. And they said, Frank, you kind of got boots in the ground. Are you close? What's happening? And where can we send money to?
For
Hurricane Helene.
Helene, okay.
And I said, I don't know. Keep your books closed, because after Sandy, we saw so much waste and of money and resources. A lot of good was done, but I personally saw a lot of waste. And I said, we're not doing this again. So I have a dear friend of mine who, younger brother in Christ, moved down in the Charlotte area, and he called me up on a Thursday and said, I'm going out to Asheville. I found a ministry that I think is viable. Let me go check it out. This was Thursday.
And this Thursday, the last week then?
It would be, yeah. So the storm came Friday. He was out on Thursday, and he said, I found this organization called Hearts with Hands. I'm going to go see. And I said, all right, well, look, check it out. Let me know. If we get a good sniff test, then maybe this is something we can get behind. And so he went, he came back. He said, Frank, they got a big organization. It's set up warehouses and resources and material and whatnot coming through, seems to be okay. So I started looking, and I had another from disaster recovery up north put me in touch with some chains of people down here. And so I had two organizations. I called the first one and I started telling him this story of not wanting to go to waste. And could you tell me a little bit about this? And have you thought about this? And he's a little bit dismissive. So I left a message for the founder of Hearts with Hands, Dr. Ralph Sexton. And I left him it said founder on the website. So I figured, let me go right to the top and talk to him. Left a message on his voicemail on Friday. And on Saturday, the man called me back. And I told him the same story. And he said, would you come to the site? When can you come to the site? I'll give you a tour. I don't know nothing from nothing. I don't know. I'm kind of new, 2 years, not a long time. And I got 1 foot in New York and 1 foot in South Carolina. And so,
but the fact that he'd invite you to come,
I said, wow,
says everything.
I'm coming.
Come see our
Come
operation. That's huge.
Correct. So now, I go up on last Sunday, and he was gracious enough to give me a tour. His website says he's been in ministry from 1974. I'm born 1972, so he's got a 50-year track record, right? As long as I've been alive, just about. And for the next 40 minutes, he took myself and two of my sons on a walking tour of his 22-acre campus. Wow. Now, this is a church. It's functioning in the community.
And what is the church?
It's Trinity Baptist.
Trinity Baptist in Asheville.
In Asheville. Okay. So he started giving us a tour, and immediately, as we pulled in, I saw kayaks and search and rescue teams with Chicago and Vermont and Louisiana and Georgia, and there were their Zodiac boats, and they're all staged, and it's I see Humvees and the sheriff's out and whatnot, and this place is just a buzz.
So this is a serious operation.
Serious operation. Now remember, I'm here Sunday, and he gets punched in the nose. Asheville gets punched in the nose on Friday into Saturday. So I'm about a week removed now. So remember this as I tell this story. I witnessed the search and rescue teams, and what Dr. Sexton was telling me was that when they come out of the water with the human remains, fecal matter, death on them, literally death on them, gas and oil. They had a whole assembly line, and we can get some photos. Maybe you're looking at here now. They had a decontamination station where they would get hosed off and scrubbed.
And you were seeing all this?
I'm watching it, yeah.
Wow.
We've got video of it. So they take off the decontamination station, and they take all their clothes, put it in a bag. They go into a mobile shower station, take their clothes out, off to the mobile laundry station. And all of this is happening. Then he takes me.
It sounds like a hazardous waste operation.
Well, it is, because they're in these,
Wow.
in the if you've seen, I'm sure by now everyone has seen the lakes that look like, absolute abject disaster with everything. Cars, I've watched videos of fire trucks being submerged in all the oil and the gas, and that's what these men are diving into.
Wow.
That's what these men are diving into.
Wow.
He then took me around and showed me the fuel depot, and he showed me the refrigerated trucks for produce, and he had just had like $6,000 worth of ice delivered into another one, and the big, the big industrial sized generators. And he told me that he had the FAA approved them for a helipad site on the back lawn, so that they had a half a dozen helicopters coming in and out starting this week on search and rescue.
All this happened in a period of a week.
In a week.
Wow. That's fast.
Then he showed me, and this was the thing that really got me. So the FAA was impressive because bureaucracy, but he showed me a well that they dug. It's probably, there's no fresh water in Asheville. At the city level, because the dam must have blown out the utilities.
Wow.
So he had the wherewithal, he had the connections, to find a well vendor who then came out in this and dug a well and had the water tested. And he's pumping fresh, clean water. And he's had this, apparently a second one. I'm going tonight. I'll get maybe an update.
You're going up there tonight?
I'm going tonight, yeah. So so this man led in a week all of this. And this was
And he's a
he's a
pastor.
pastor. So and here was the most beautiful thing. For all of you pastors out there maybe watching, he converted his sanctuary into a dormitory.
Did you get a picture of that?
We couldn't because it was personal items.
Oh,
Couldn't do it but it was all cots. It was all personal items. And church was shut. But church was happening. And that's what the church is supposed to do. All of this meetings and programs and VBS, and I get we have to do these things, but this is the call of the church, to love each other.
As I said this morning, in the Roman Empire, the two great impetuses for the growth of the church were the two plagues that hit in the Roman Empire. And the Christians got out there in the streets, taking care of the sick, bringing them in, taking care of them, and nursing them back to health. So those two events that catapulted the church forward. This is a similar sort of thing. We have the opportunity to engage and truly help people at their point of real need.
Yeah. So I looked at Pastor Sexton and I said, "You've made every decision correct, it seems. You didn't make any mistakes, not in 7 days, to get all of this together." I said, "You must have done this before." And he gave me this like mischievous, childlike kind of smile, which resonates with me. I said, "What is this man going to say?" And he looked at me and he said, "We were at the Oklahoma City bombings. We were at Hurricane Andrew.
Wow.
We were at 9/11. I said, "Yeah, that makes sense."
So he's done this
for
before.
such a time as this, right? So life throws us curveballs, and all of us have all sorts of different experiences. And maybe this is what God has been preparing Dr. Sexton for.
Wow.
Maybe this is his coup d'etat, right? Maybe this is the main act, because now the disaster came to his hometown.
And folks, here's what I want you to notice. What Frank has done here. He didn't just take someone's word that this was a good thing to get involved with or to give money to. He went boots on the ground, saw what was going on, and said, "Okay, I want to be a part of this." And now he's recruiting his friends to be a part, giving money or getting involved.
Yeah.
But
Right.
he did his due diligence.
Yeah.
And that's what Jesus said. He didn't say just be as innocent as doves. He said, be as shrewd as a snake and as innocent as a dove. And that's what this is. It's being innocent. That is compassion.
Yeah.
But also doing it shrewdly.
Yeah. And I think that now again, I've been in regular communication with Dr. Sexton. He appears to be a good man. He appears to be a talented man. He's well connected. All of this checks out. And it's enough for me to say now, when the guys in the Dakotas and Colorado and New York have their checkbooks open, "Frank, what are we going to do?" Now I could say, "Okay, this is what we can do." And so he put a request down and said, "Frank, the ladies can't carry the jugs of water and in the warehouse, right? And the cases of cans of chili and whatnot. Could you find us a golf cart with a platform on the back?" I said, "Who would have thought of that?" But we put the call out, and I don't know, maybe like 25 grand has come in. And I said, and right away I said, "Okay, let's get 200 Sub-Zero sleeping bags, because the folks out in the wild, it's going to be in the 30s in the mountain."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's cold, and soon, and we're only in October, and they're not getting power back. So I said, "Okay, the first thing we could do is get some sleeping bags." So we got an order of 200 sleeping bags coming in. We found them at great prices, maybe $62 a pop delivered.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
really
a great
good number.
price.
Yeah, so that's coming to me personally.
And you're
over the
gonna
weekend,
deliver,
and I'm
deliver
gonna
this?
right. And so the golf cart, I went and sourced one yesterday, and we bought one. And as I'm driving here, it's being delivered on a U-Haul bed that we're gonna drive up. One of the gentlemen from this morning's breakfast, John Burns, we're gonna go and roll up and drop this off, so the ladies could not burn out, because this is gonna be a
Wow.
long-term thing.
So this is a real tool.
This is a tool, right? This is a tool, and he asked for it. And so, I could be under authority and submission, and if you want it, I'll get it to you. So we're going to bring that up. But here's the thing. I am bringing it up to the man. I'm going to hand him the keys and say, "Put it to work." And the intention is to get those sleeping bags what they're doing is they have the base of operation is here, and all the volunteer fire departments are coming down, picking up, and then coming back out
So the
where the
fire
people
departments in the region that are
are coming
outlying
down,
areas. Okay.
picking up in the outlying areas, and then going back because the people, they can't, 50 miles away, there's no gas,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no power. They're not going to have any hope of gas or power for the foreseeable future. So this is their distribution arm. So if possible, if they'll let me, I'd like to get those sleeping bags up to the point of need here.
So you literally take them out.
Well, that's the intention. We're going to see
Okay.
but that's what I've discussed with Pastor Sexton. But the point is, I'm taking responsibility for those funds, and every dollar is going to go where it's supposed to go. And we're posting it. We've got a little website, pkad.net/Asheville. And we've got some video, and we've got some means for folks to give dollars, and we kind of work all that through. And but yeah. So
okay, now I've got a very practical question.
Yep.
So people are giving you all this money.
Yep.
How are they going to know it's used properly?
So right now, if you go, we've posted the invoices of what we've purchased.
Posted online?
Yes, you could see it.
The website you just
Yeah.
mentioned? Okay.
So it's
That's
there.
accountability.
Yeah. So that as we're making purchases, we're putting it and posting it right there. And at the end of the day, this is, I didn't want to put it on social media. I purposely did not put it on social media. I put it someplace behind something that we can control at our company website, and without any branding, very vanilla, on purpose.
Good.
And this is for my friends and colleagues that said, Frank, what can we do? So this isn't really this was not planned. And this isn't really a broadcast per se to give me money. That's not really what I want. You want to give it to, Hearts with Hands. You want to reach out to Trinity Baptist and Pastor Sexton, and you want to just cut a check to them direct. I don't care. It's not about me or my face or anything of that nature.
People are wanting to give, but you've also made yourself accountable.
That's right.
You're putting the numbers there so people can see what you're doing with your money.
Took my 12-year-old and my 7-year-old with me because they needed to see this.
Up to Asheville.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So they came in tow. So I don't know. The next day, my son looked at me and says, Dad, what the heck do you care? Why do you care?
Why do you care?
Yeah. And so I had to open up Matthew 25 and say,
Parable of the Talents.
Parable of the Talents. We gave one guy 5, another guy 2, another guy 1. And when he came back, he said, show me the 5. What'd you do with it? Here's 10, sir. Here's the 2. Here's 4, sir. And he didn't say that. He said, too much that, he gave you a little bit, but you were diligent here. And I'll give you now responsibility over much to this first 2 guys. But that first guy with the talent, he said, I was scared and I just dug it, put it in. And the response is now documented. He was not happy.
The master wasn't happy.
No, you should have put it in the bank. At least I get some interest. And so I told my son, we watched a man in Dr. Sexton who probably had 5 talents and is multiplying it actively now into 10. I said, maybe God's only given me 1, but I'm not burying it.
No.
I am not going to sit when it comes time for judgment.
God will reward us.
I want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant.
And isn't that what we all want to hear?
Yeah.
Well done, my good and faithful servant. Don't we all, as followers of Jesus, we crave to hear that one day, just like Frank does. Whether you're trying to help in North Carolina or whatever it is God put on your
heart.
We're all part of the bigger story that God is writing. We're all responsible. Go out and look for people who are looking for God. But within that context, he gives each of us a specific application, like Frank, for this stage in his life, going up to North Carolina to help someone who's already on the ground.
That's right.
He's in a support role.
Yeah.
Now, maybe other than this podcast, no one else is ever going to hear Frank's name. But you know what? That's okay, because we each have a role to play. And what we all direly crave to hear is from the master who loves us. And he says, Frank, well done,
And if that could be the guiding force to everything that we do, I mean, I'm not here because I want something in return. I you will if you will, obey me because you love me. I have another
Yeah.
mentor that says, when you get to know God, you'll trust him. And then when you trust him, you're going to learn to love him. And then you will obey.
And then the Christian life works.
Then you become a disciple. And then you learn the truth, and the truth will set you free. I mean, that's been hammered into me. My kids know it. I know it. It's eking out of us. So, but if you don't know him, you don't trust him. And if you won't trust him, you're not going to love something you don't trust.
No.
You're certainly not going to obey something
No, you
out
won't.
of love. That's a different deal.
And the Christian life is simply a trust relationship with the living God.
That's
So
it.
if you do not trust God, I promise you, I already know the Christian life isn't working for you.
That's correct.
Because all it is trust relationship led by the Holy Spirit. It's really that simple, folks. So Frank, what's the one piece of advice you give people who are saying, I want to help,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure I want to do exactly what you're doing,
Yeah.
but how do I get started?
Yeah.
What's the first step?
Yeah. So, and I say this with love for the church and for leadership, but I'm going to talk to the folks in the congregant in the seats right now. Not a lot happens in that chair. You have to get out of the walls of the church, and you need to do something. I don't know what that is. God gifts us with all sorts of talents, and he gives us gifts. I'm sure there's something in Phoenix that could be done, whether it's a soup kitchen, and maybe it's not, and I'll speak to the creative thinkers out there, the business owners, the critical thinkers out there, find the need and fill it. Roosevelt said it, right? Do what you can, where you can, with what you have right now. So that might be, but you have to get, if we're just consuming, if we're consumers for our whole lives and we're not producing something, the way I've read it, he said he's looking for fruit. He's looking for fruit in the branch. If there's no fruit in the branch, he says he lops it off.
But what's the key to bearing fruit?
You need to be connected.
Be connected.
Connected.
Folks, if you're not bearing fruit, don't go out and try to bear fruit. If you're not bearing fruit, look in the mirror and realize what that means is you're not very connected. So what's the solution? Go spend more time alone with Jesus.
That's everything.
Learning from him. And as you do,
Oh,
you'll start
man.
bearing, you'll wake up and go, I've changed.
Oh, man.
But the key is not to try to change yourself. You can't. I know. I've tried. You can't change yourself. But you can get on your knees and let God change you. And it's not just get on your knees once and say, praying, God, change me. It's each day spending that time alone with the Lord, in communion with him, learning from him, learning from his word. And I promise you, if you'll do that, you will start to see your life change. So I think that's a good note to tie this up on, Frank.
Yeah, I would agree.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for
Grateful
having me.
just to tell your story.
Yeah.
And to encourage others to say, well, how can God use me?
Yeah.
Either in Hurricane Helene or something, or maybe on the other side of the world, or maybe in the soup kitchen in your community, or maybe helping to head up evangelism team. And by the way, folks, and I want you to pay attention, evangelism, all it is looking for people who are looking for God. And you can do that in a soup kitchen. You can do that up on a hurricane recovery camp up in North Carolina. You're just looking for people who are looking for God. So with that, thank you for joining me. And Frank, thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Good to meet you
Yeah, you
today.
too.
Good to have a brother like you out there.
Yeah.
Making a difference.
Doing my part.
And folks, thank you for joining us. This is Brad Bright, the God Is Issue podcast. Thank you for joining us today. And if you'd like to sign up, please make sure you sign up for the subscription and click on the bell up there so that you'll be notified whenever we do a new podcast. And again, remember, God is the issue in every issue, whether on the personal level or the cultural level. God bless.